Hey, today I'm going to be talking about Antigone, a story made by Greeks as an original play and a tragedy. It's the story me and my group got, and without any other introductions, I hope you guys enjoy. Let's start by talking about the protagonist of the story, Antigone. The protagonist of the story, Antigone, is the daughter of Oedipus and his mother Jocasta, through at the time unknown incest. She has two brothers called Polynices and Eteocles, who are both deceased due to fighting between themselves. She also has a sister who goes by the name of Ismene. She, in addition, has an elderly uncle who is named Creon, and due to no other claim to the throne has become king. She is the fiancée of Creon's son Haemon and her cousin. Now Creon is an elderly man who is now king of Thebes due to the recent departure of his two nephews. He has a wife named Eurydice, and as mentioned before, a son named Haemon, who is engaged to Antigone. And as a comment, sorry for the picture, but it's the best I could do on my PS4. And trust me, it is 3 times zoomed in. Like, if I would have had it normal, you couldn't even see it. So now, before we go on any further, I just want to take this time to explain what I'm going to be doing in this situation. So unlike the first two parts where I talked about Antigone and Creon, I do not have a script for this story part. I decided to just go at it from the top of my head. So I hope you guys can excuse me saying or us a lot of times. It's just me trying to think up what I'm going to say next. There might be some mistakes here and there. But I can't cut it because my PS4 won't let me go more than like 6 cuts, and I've already gone through 4 already, so that kind of sucks. I will be having a bit of commentary here and there of my own personal opinion besides what I'm going to be saying about the story. And I hope so far you guys have been enjoying the Witcher 3 gameplay. It's me hunting and slaying a griffin. And the reason why I chose this was because in the book we're reading, there's actually lore on the griffin from Greek mythology, and I just thought it'd be a nice touch to have it. So without anything else to say, let's move on to the story. So the story. Well, Antigone leaves off after both Polynices and Eteocles have killed themselves. And the reason why they killed themselves is because Oedipus, when he left, he told them that they would both take turns on being king. Each year they would switch. So Eteocles got to go first because he was the eldest. And when it came time for Eteocles to step down and Polynices become king, Eteocles refused. And so this angered Polynices, and Polynices in a way sort of revolted. So in the end they end up dueling each other for the throne, and they end up killing themselves. So after that, Creon becomes king, and this is sort of where the story starts. So Antigone believes that it falls upon her to bury Polynices after he is not buried because he is seen as a traitor by Creon. Because her brother Eteocles had a proper burial. So she asks her sister Ismene for help on this task, but Ismene refuses. So it all falls upon Antigone. And well, Antigone at first does succeed in burying Polynices. She only ends up covering him with a bit of dirt, sort of to show that he is buried, not necessarily fully interred in the ground, but sort of as a reference. But some guards end up coming across this and see that Polynices has been sort of interred, so they go and tell Creon. And Creon is mad, so he tells the guards to uninter or take off the dirt and wait around until the culprit shows up. And so yes, they do uninter the body and wait around, and then finally Antigone shows up, and she is seen as burying her brother again by the guards. So the guards have no other choice because the king had ordered, and they have to take her back to the to Creon. And so Creon then asked the guards if anyone saw them uh, arrest Antigone, and the guards respond with a no. So Antigone is told by Creon to just go back to her room and he would forget about this. But Antigone says, "Nope, I'm just gonna do it again." And this sort of makes Creon mad, and then she responds, "I didn't say yes. I can say no to anything I say vile, and I don't have to count the cost. But because you said yes, all that you can do for all your crown and your trappings and your guards, all that you can do is have me killed." So she is quite the comprehensive person and knows that Creon, being the king and his goal being to keep order in the kingdom, basically has no choice but to punish her, and this punishment should be death. So she also mentions that she sees the throne as vile. The reason why she sees it as vile is because, just as this situation points out, because you have this goal or burden of having to keep order into the kingdom, you basically can't let your personal stuff get in the way, such as Creon is doing right now, where he's just letting Antigone go free if she just goes back to her room. So Creon basically admits to this and decides that she actually does need to be needs to be punished. So the punishment is that she will be killed. Now, before she gets sent to prison, she tells Creon that my nails are broken, my fingers are bleeding, my arms are covered with the welts left by the paws of your guards, but I am a queen. This is sort of with the theme of insubordination, and insubordination is just if someone is lower rank than you, but they act as if they are superior to you through their actions. Well then that would be subordination, because they're still a lower rank, but they are acting as being superior to someone with a higher rank. And this is of course noticeable between a queen and a guard, of course. But so she does get sent to prison for the time being, and then one day Creon tells her to just not throw her life away completely and to just marry Haemon. To which she responds, "If Haemon reaches the point where he stops growing pale with fear when I grow pale, stops thinking that I must have been killed in an accident when I am 5 minutes late, stops feeling that he is alone on earth when I laugh and he does not know why, if he too has learned to say yes to everything, why no then no, I do not love Haemon." So this ties back to them saying yes and no. She doesn't want Haemon to say yes to the marriage, even though they're both already fiancés. She doesn't want him to just say yes because she's about to die. He wants, she wants a man who has the courage to say no. And so that's why she doesn't want to get married with Haemon, for at least the time being. So what happens next is, because she refused to be married with Haemon, she does end up having the punishment come. And when the punishment does come, it is said by a guard to her that it will be the punishment of immured. And immured basically is just to be sealed off against their will, against her will. So she'd just be locked up in a room without anything, and it wouldn't be her choice. So it's not as bad as a punishment as it would be killing someone, as long as they bring you food. Now, of course, they do not mention whether she just be there inside until she starved to death or just. But they just said that she'll be immured. So the day comes when she is going to be immured, and so they do lock her up inside like this small little stone-covered cell. But then Haemon's scream is heard from inside that cell, and Haemon is screaming because he sees Antigone has hung herself. She committed suicide. This makes Haemon really sad. Of course, understandable since it was his love. So he stabs himself. He also commits suicide, and he lies next to Antigone, his love. But then, Eurydice, Haemon's mom, and the wife to Creon, she also commits suicide by, according to the story, slicing her neck. So in the end, of course, this had to be a tragedy. So this is where the tragedy part comes in. And actually, the story mentions what their version of a tragedy was. And so it is said, every kind of stillness, the hush when the executioner's axe goes up at the end of the last act, the unbreathable silence when at the beginning of the play the two lovers, their hearts bare, their bodies naked, stand for the first time face to face in the darkened room, afraid to stir. The silence inside you when the roaring crowd acclaims the winner, so that you think of a film with a soundtrack, mouths agape and no sound coming out of them, a clamor that is no more than a picture, and you, the victor, already vanquished, alone in the desert of your silence. That is tragedy. So this basically reflects back onto basically the entire story of Antigone. It starts off by mentioning the prologue as the hush when the executioner's axe goes up at the end of the last act. So this is well thought of because in the prologue you are told that everyone is going to die and Creon will be left all alone. And this is sort of reflected by the executioner's axe going up, because even though you know that after the executioner's axe falls, the head will roll, of course. But it still manages to build up a bit of suspense as it rises, and then there's that bit where it's just up, and that's suspenseful, and then falls, that is the story, and then finally the tragedy comes when the head rolls, of course. Then there is love between Haemon and Antigone, which is mentioned by the unbreathable silence when the beginning of the play the two lovers, the hearts bare, their bodies naked, stand for the first time face to face in a darkened room, afraid to stir. This reflects back on their love, because even though they both love each other and they're face to face, they are afraid of being married, afraid of being stirred, afraid of being married. Antigone is afraid that if Haemon has to say yes, it's not the guy she loves. And so that's why in the end they don't end up getting married. But then the most important part is when it talks about the tragedy. And that is the silence inside you when the roaring crowd acclaims the winner. The winner, of course, being Creon, because he has won the throne, the highest honor in royalty. So that you think of the film without a soundtrack, mouths agape and the sound coming out of them, a clamor that is not more than a picture, and you, the victor, already vanquished, alone in the desert of your silence. So this reflects back onto Creon. Even though he's already the victor and the winner, he is vanquished. He is basically doomed because of this this burden of having to take care of the kingdom. His, again, personal stuff can't get in the way. So this ends up making him be alone and in the desert of his silence. And so that is the definition of tragedy in this play. So in the end, Antigone kills herself, the domino effect of Haemon and Eurydice, and this leaves Chiron alone. And yeah, it's quite a bit sad, but then again, it was all predicted in the prologue. I mean, not predicted, written in the prologue. So yeah, it's actually quite a tragedy, of course, as a play is supposed to be. And this is actually, the definition of tragedy is actually implemented in other stuff, such as, for example, right off the top of my head, Romeo and Juliet. We studied it last year, where again the executioner's axe going up is a prologue. The love part is Romeo and Juliet's love, and in the end, the victors, or the people that end up alone, are the parents of both Romeo and the parents of Juliet as well. They end up alone because they couldn't fix their disagreement. So yeah, that is the end of the story. And I also want to give thanks to my group. Everyone helped out with the script, and Andrew helped out with the research, and Shui, you were a pretty awesome leader. So peace and have an awesome day.